All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of your Nighttime Fire podcast in regards to our NBA Simulation League Dream Teams. My name is Thomas Hampton.
My name is Lucas Freeman.
My name is Bailey Barnhill.
And today we have a special guest, as you see in this thumbnail. What is your name, good sir?
Wade.
Bryce Wade. So glad to have you on here. I think this is going to be a really good episode. We've got a lot of hot information to talk about. So to start off, we haven't seen any power rankings from Trey on the day, but we've decided we want to make some power rankings just to make sure that there are some out there. And so, Lucas, could you take the power rankings for us?
Of course. So coming in at the number 1 spot is David Bradford. Coming in at number 2 is myself. Coming in at 3 is Bryce. 4 is Miles. 5 is Thomas. 6 is Zunian. 7 is Ben. 8 is Drew. 9 is Bailey. 10 is Quinn. And 11 is Trey.
11 is Trey. And while this is going on, we've got some interesting stuff. Let's focus on the podcast instead of the trades going on for just a second, and if we need to, we can get involved. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I feel good about these power rankings. I feel like David is definitely the top team, and Lucas is there at a good second. And so I feel like the top is definitely there. The bottom is tough, but I feel like the bottom is pretty set for the league. I hate to say it, Bailey, but I think, have you made any specific changes today?
Yes. Today was the trade deadline for our league, and past 2 series have not been great for my team, so I decided to shake things up a bit. I traded Magic Johnson and Mike Miller for Zunion for Steph Curry and Luka Doncic. I think I won that trade, obviously. But yeah, they really just showed in the series that I played today how much it improved my team, but we'll get into that later.
Also, I did just realize that this poll that Trey put out, Trey gets LeBron, David gets Kobe, both options were yes.
It's just ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, they're just salty. That trades are not going their way, and very clearly unfair trades. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that one. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the day-over-day rankings. And let me pull these up real quick. So we see a lot of movement around here. I see Zunion and I are taking the biggest ups on the day, both of us up 2 spots.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see Ben and Drew taking some L's today. And so I will say I am the cause of Ben and Drew going down. I had a 5-3 victory and then a 6-2 victory. And so I'm happy about that. Bailey, tell me how you feel about Trey making his way down and you making your way out of that bottom spot.
Yeah, I just had my team showed out today. They really bounced back. Like I said, 2 really bad series. Got swept first one, second one 1-7. So they were really hungry for that W, and they really showed out today. And as you can see, I'm pretty high up on the day versus day, but it's not hard to go up when your last series was 1-7.
Right.
But it's good. I'm in the green,
Yeah. No, definitely. Yesterday you took a 6.25% drop in your win-loss percentage from 37.5 to 31.25. And so today you're up 3.75%, given the fact that you split the series. So proud of you. I just want to let you know that.
Thanks, man.
Anytime. So are there any other comments regarding any ups or downs on the day? Or am I good?
Not really. We had our kind of higher people kind of just stay consistent because it's kind of hard to move much from that position. Obviously, Trey's at the bottom, which is no shock.
Right.
He honestly should just be at the bottom every day because he's just the worst team. But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll say that for later. But other than that, there wasn't very much
Yeah.
to talk about here. I don't feel like.
Right. I mean, I'm excited. I finally took a top spot on the up and downs, up 9.82%. I had a really good day against Ben and Drew, but we'll talk about that more later. But I want to go ahead and give some time over to our guest of the night, Bryce Wade. We appreciate you coming along, and we want to hear about your game today. Tell us a little bit about what happened, and Lucas, you feel free to chime in since it was Bryce versus a co-host.
It didn't go the way I wanted it to. It wasn't the worst series in the world. 5-3, just not the worst. It didn't affect my overall kind of record too much. I'm still about the same spot I was in the league, but yet inconsistent play from MVP candidate Dwayne Wade. In the games I won, putting up 30, 38, 39 points, but had some pretty abysmal shooting performances. Shooting I think 6 for 23 in one game where I lost. I think that might have made a difference where just D Wade wasn't being his normal self. 50-point games today.
Yeah, and so would you say that Dwayne Wade's performance was that who was shooting that poorly in those 5 losses?
Yeah, he had some rough times. During the win, though, he did put up some good numbers, so I can't complain too much about him.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday he was our player of the day. I mean, he put up some big. He had a 50 burger yesterday. That was big time. And so, Lucas, tell me about your side of this one.
Well, yeah, it was a hard-fought series. Bryce is a very admirable foe. We've always had a mutual respect for each other. And going in, of course, I was scared of Dwayne Wade, Steve Nash. I was scared of. He had a really good squad coming into this game, so I knew if I won this series that I'd be in pretty good shape because I just held him in such a high regard. So we were very very happy to get the win in this series, and I would not be surprised if I saw Bryce in the semifinals of the play.
Awesome.
Because you're a super team now after that trade with Trey a few days ago.
I appreciate it. Trey's just a fool. So I mean,
yeah, I'm still confused about how that one went down, but I'm going to talk about that a little later because that plays into a little bit of a very hot topic for later today.
I'd like to point out that my roster was built on consistent drafting, no trades, just trust my players, while Lucas's was taking advantage of a very desperate man in hour of need.
Oh
my gosh. It's a doggy-dog world out here.
It is a doggy-dog world. So, Bryce, tell us about your free agency pickup.
I picked up Gary Payton, and I think free agency for me was a turning point of the season, not because of Gary Payton, who really doesn't get a whole lot of minutes, but because I dropped Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce is probably, in my eyes, he's an abomination. But, let bygones be bygones. But he was just shooting me into a hole, had a lot of 5 for 21 type games where he was taking too many shots and not making any of them. So getting rid of him, putting Draymond at the 3, where Draymond, the year he has is his defensive player of the year. So he's really good at defense, doesn't take a whole lot of shots, gets a decent amount of assists and rebounds. And then I knew I needed a backup guard. Thomas, we almost completed a trade right before.
We did almost complete a trade.
Period. Yeah, so I needed a guard bad.
Yeah.
Gary Payton stood out to me just because he's probably the best defensive point guard of all time. He's not going to take up a lot of shots, but when he comes in, he's going to provide good defensive minutes, get some assists, and probably make a few shots as well.
Right. Man, I love the analysis. All right, real quick, just as a reference, we do have a new trade-in. Zunion, Magic, and Miller for Queens, Paul George, and Smooch Parker. What? No, I'm not going to let that happen. I get what he's saying, but like trying to say that's just ridiculous. What do y'all think about this?
I don't know. What is Zunion going for? What's his end game? What does he think he's doing?
Zunion thinks he's funny.
He's got
I think
jokes.
we should accept it. He thinks he's funny.
I think this is a terrible trade for Zunion.
Able to get out.
Y'all in for accepting this?
I'm accepting it. Live on the podcast.
That's my computer is running a little slow, so I got to go do this
Wait, we have breaking news from the commissioner. Apparently, he can't do that since you can't have two Smush Parkers on the
He
same
said, "I'll use my year change."
team.
Oh my
This is
gosh!
unbelievable content from Sunyan. You can say what you want about the man, but he's a dumb entertainer, but he is an entertainer.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So, well, I guess that's that. We'll let the commissioner do his job, and we'll sit here and continue the podcast if that's all right with
We'll
you
let
guys.
this play out.
All right. So I really appreciate your analysis on the game, Bryce, and we'll get some feedback on a couple things here in just a little bit from you as well. So I want to talk about Bailey versus Quinn, the bottom versus the bottom. Give me a little bit about what you got today, Bailey, because this was a close one.
You know, man, this is a series built and bred in the gutters of the bracket. You know, we were just deep down in it, going back and forth. We every team lost at home several times. I don't know what was going on. No team had a solid hold at home.
Right.
I came out over him in point differential though. Like I said earlier, that trade I did earlier this morning with Zunyan, getting Steph and Luka really just added a lot of 3-point shooting to my team. It really just added spacing to the floor. You got Tim Duncan, Dwight Howard down in the paint, Steph and Luka on the perimeter. It really just spaces out the floor. And then Steph and Luka also added a layer of defense that I didn't have. My defense beforehand really relied on blocks in the paint with Dwight Howard, Tim Duncan, Dikembe Mutombo. And in this series, I saw that Steph and Luka were bringing in a lot of steals. So a lot of nice perimeter defense going on that I think really helped me secure the W on this series.
Awesome. It was really good to see you take it there at the end. I mean, Quinn almost came back there at the end. I mean, he almost took the point differential. I mean, we were going into game 5. Or not game 5, game 8 with a what was this? A 5-point differential? Yeah, it was a 5-point differential in game 8. And so it's crazy that every game before that, the lowest point differential was 9 points. And then you go into that last game, you on the edge of losing, and it's a close game, exactly what you needed, even if you took the L.
Yeah.
So
it just shows how my team's evolved. You know, we're not choking anymore. We're seeing series through.
right.
You just love to see it. You know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And so I appreciate the analysis on there. I'm going to head on over and talk about my double header today. I want to note that going into today, and maybe this has to do with some of my particular frustrations with the First Take podcast, and I think something that we've all agreed on is that they live for entertainment and we live for accurate analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Would y'all agree with that? I mean, tell me your true thoughts on First Take versus Nighttime Fire, and I want to start with Bryce. I want to hear your hot take. Either way, if you want to roast us, I'm completely fine with you roasting us.
I've been on both shows, and I can say that this podcast does have a little bit more sophistication than the other has. The other's based on a little bit more wow factor than this one is, while this one has a little bit more substance in the analysis. Both, neither are bad, but this one is very different, where you're not going to get a lot of arguments and other things that kind of the other podcast kind of feeds on.
Right. Awesome. So, and Bailey and Lucas, I mean, I think all three of us are definitely a little biased, but
yeah, I mean, you said they're for entertainment, and call them entertaining would probably be it'd be a very generous statement. I don't know if I'd venture that far. Call them entertaining. It's a little too much for my liking.
right.
Maybe I'd say ignorant, and
I think that's
kind of like foolish, and it's kind of like a clown show a little bit, like a clown show.
right.
It's entertaining in that sense. Like you're watching like just the car crash. You're just watching and seeing for the next stupid phrase. You know? But I guess in that sense, it's entertaining. But other than that, it's entertaining in the very, very worst way, if you know what I mean.
Right. Bailey, any thoughts on your end?
I mean, any kind of podcast like this where the GMs are also commentators, there's gonna be bias. I mean, naturally, that's just how it goes. But I think we back up our bias with enough analysis to where it kind of evens out. We're not very emotional when we're talking about this stuff,
Right.
as you see on First Take. We're pretty level-headed, talking numbers, talking facts.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I mean, I feel like a lot of the analysis, especially against me, I feel like I've definitely been the target of a lot of heat in that podcast last night, specifically them calling me irrelevant, talking about me going 2-6 in both of my matchups, or whatever the specific. It was either 3-5 in both, or it was 2-6 in both, or a mix of those. But they said I was going to lose both and not have a 4-4 matchup or anything better than that. And so I think coming out, and especially right beforehand, I think it was Trey or Zunyan noted that I was going to go 2-14 on the day. Whether there was a little humor to that or some legitimate feelings, I came out and I performed well, and I performed 11-5. I had the biggest gain on the day after being slandered, and I go into a Thomas versus Ben matchup, and I come in with the heat. And I go in and I take the 5-3 over Ben. I think the adjustment to my lineup and playing Ginobili over Kobe Bryant on a 42-6 minute breakdown was perfect for today. And I think it really showed that Kobe was stealing far too many shots from the rest of the team and was not performing well like it had been in the past. And so I think today was a true show of my colors and how my team's going to perform, especially as we approach playoff time. And so I was excited to come out with a 39-point differential on Ben on a 5-3 victory. And then in Drew's series, that's the one I was honestly a little more worried about. I mean, I think Ben was definitely my wild card, and I'll have some better analysis at the end. But 6-2 over Drew. Drew was the number one team week one. He was the number one team, or was it? No, Zunyan was the number one team, but he was up there. I want to say he was 2 or 3. And so I think Drew has definitely been on the downturn, but I feel like me taking 6-2 on Drew definitely shows that it was more than just a close matchup, that it was a total domination. And I respect Drew's team a lot, but I feel like I had a very, very good day 5. And so I'm excited as we move forward, but we'll talk about our predictions on tomorrow at the very end. But we got to talk about this. There's a lot of trade talk going on right now as we record this, but let's talk about this 3-way trade real quick. This Trey's Kobe to Quinn, Quinn's Paul George to Zunyan, Zunyan's Magic to Trey. Let's talk about, first off, Trey has Kobe now because he traded Calderon to me for Kobe. I told Trey specifically that he needed to make some power moves if he wanted any chance to make it, and he accepted the trade. And so the trade got accepted real quickly, and then he goes and he tells me that he's going to trade it for Magic to Zunyan. But little did I know that this was going to turn out to be a 3-way trade screwing Quinn. It wasn't going to be Zunyan getting Kobe. It was going to be Quinn getting Quinn getting Kobe. So I want to hear, Bryce, how do you feel about this trade?
Honestly, Quinn doesn't know any better. Quinn's the least involved of all of us in this league. Quinn's not going to hear what we say right now because Quinn's never going to hear this podcast.
Right.
Quinn doesn't know that Kobe is a shot-hogging waste of space within the simulation. Rip Kobe, all respect to the Mamba, but within the simulation, he's alive and well, and he's really bad.
Right.
And Quinn doesn't know this, and I feel like the trade really took advantage of Quinn's lack of knowledge of the simulation and was going to bolster a Zunyan team, which is looking scary, and then also make Trey's team better while only making Quinn, already a bottom dweller, worse. So I think the trade got rejected for that reason. I don't think it matters that Quinn agreed to it because obviously even if any trade is being evaluated, it has to have been agreed to by all parties. So I don't think that really matters. But I think Quinn was definitely getting the worst end of this trade, and that it's a good idea to veto it.
I would definitely agree. So Bailey, I want to ask you a question and hear your honest feedback on this. Do you feel like, in general, the way Quinn's played in this league? Now, Quinn's the only person that has the group message muted. Let's take a note.
Yes.
Even James Klein isn't actually playing in the league. Which, by the way, let's take a quick moment and talk about James Klein making some fire jerseys.
We really appreciate it, James.
Yeah, that means
you're doing
more
it
than you know.
You're doing it for literally.
They were cool, but they were cool. We didn't give the 4-1 leads any love.
Yeah. But back to kind of talking about the Quinn.
I would have appreciated a warm up, maybe.
Yeah. If he made you a custom bench. So So David's saying he can add another smoosh. I really don't want that. No. We said we're gonna accept it, right?
I think David said that it's impossible to even happen because you'd have two of the same.
He just said you can just add another smush. I'm good with it.
I mean, if Zunyan,
I think Zunyan's taking the L on that trade.
For sure.
but
I think Zunyan's overconfident, and he thinks that Paul George is going to fix his fate, and I'm not buying it. So I think this is what pushes Zunyan outside the top 5 and gets his hair dyed pink. That's my take. But Bailey, to my question to you that I haven't asked just yet, do you feel like Quinn drafted on knowledge, or do you think Quinn drafted on face value because most of his players were new age players instead of old school players that also had good numbers, and he had the number 1 pick?
Yeah, I mean, I know Quinn. I know the types of players he likes, and coincidentally, those were the types of players he drafted. So, I'm not saying that's a bad decision or anything. It's just when he was picking his players in the draft, I don't think he was really looking at numbers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Zunyan just said, I feel like I just sold my soul.
But here we go. I think it's interesting.
I want to say he posted it as a joke, and now he's realizing I voted reject to see the trade status. No, but all of us accepted it because I think this is going to be bad for Zunyan. I'm not too sure, but I think it's going to come out on the
players.
Bryce,
Well,
how do you think he falls on this? Trey, anyone want Kobe? Okay, Bryce, how do you feel Zach comes out on this trade?
Oh, it worked out for him with the Steph drop. I don't know if he could have seen it coming. There's talks of collusion. I don't really know what happened. Somehow he got Steph back. So maybe this will work out for him too. You never know. Maybe Smush Parker is the most underrated player in the game. But thinking with the logical part of my brain, I think Zunyan's going to tank.
Awesome. So after, we talk about these trades, and that's all important, but there's one specific thing, again, regarding Zunyan that I think is very clear in my brain, and I want to talk about my conspiracy theory with how this league is working out. And Lucas, this is going to involve you a little bit, but not because it's your fault, but because it's that you're part of it without you realizing it. Okay?
That's fine.
And I say this as I don't think you're part of it, but you could be. And I just don't know it.
You see, anyone's a suspect. I understand that. I respect
Exactly.
that. I'd be suspicious to me too.
So let's talk about the fact that Zunyan started week 1 against a really weak Quinn team. Do any of y'all reject the fact that it was the weakest Quinn team and that Zunyan legitimately deserved a 7-1 over him?
Of course not.
Yeah.
And it's obvious as we saw the result the following day after a simple lineup change.
And the resimulation where Quinn won 7-1. I don't think that's a fluke.
Yeah, just imagine where Zunyan's head would be right now if he opened up that first week with the resim results.
Right. And if we're thinking right now, Zunyan's 20-28. If it weren't for that specific, if he had the actual results of that Quinn matchup and everything went and followed his suit the rest of the time, that means he would have 6 less wins, so he'd have 14 wins, and he would have 6 more losses, so he'd have 34 losses, and he'd be in last place. Last place.
That is abysmal.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I mean that is a lot of wins to help out your win-loss record. And so I think because of the bet that Zunyan made, and I think Zunyan's a man of his word. I think if Zunyan's out of the top 5, he's legitimately going to dye his hair hot pink. I don't question his integrity in the slightest outside of the simulation league. And so after that, you see a trend where Zunyan starts to play better. I mean, I take an Elda Quinn the next week, but Zunyan starts playing matchups that really go in his favor every time. Let's take a look at day 2. Where is it? Box scores final. Day 2, Zunyan plays Drew, and he loses 3-5. That shows Zunyan's real colors. Day 3, he loses in a sweep to David. Shows his true colors again. Day 4, he ties with Miles. All right, and day 4, I think, is when some trades started to happen. Lucas, when did you make your trade with Zunyan? Or
my trade was Zunyan.
Say that again. You cut out just a little bit.
I made my trade with Trey. Trey went and got Chris Paul from Zunyan.
Okay, okay, that's the trade that did not make any sense. All right, so
yeah,
Trey definitely lost out on that, and I don't think there was a question that like, I mean, how do y'all feel about? And let me see if I can pull up the polls, expired polls, and let's see if we can find the trade. Trey trades. No, there was the big time trade. Who did Trey give up that didn't make any sense? No, okay, so it's the Kevin Durant and Rudy Gobert and Chris Paul to you for LeBron James, Isaiah Thomas, and David Robinson. All right. The next day, Zunyan gets to play Trey. All right. Zunyan knows that he needs to have a big time win to stay in that top 5, and so he gives you a lot of players so that he can tank to make sure that Zunyan gets an 8-0 victory going into day 5. All right? And then, after that, Trey trades Karl Malone to Zunyan for Chris Paul and Ben Wallace. I don't see why Trey needed to get rid of Karl Malone. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like
in the series I played with Trey, Karl Malone was the best part of his team.
Yeah.
So that trade alone is just out of nowhere.
Right. And so I just feel like everything has worked, and I in Zunyan's favor, and I think that basically Zunyan and Trey are working together to make sure that Zunyan lands in the top 5 before playoffs, and Trey doesn't care about his team anymore. And so I'm just convinced that there's some sort of collaboration between the two, and
collusion,
that basically Trey was trying to make sure that Zunyan's team was doing better because Trey knew that his team couldn't win. And so if people didn't make those kind of trades with or accept those kind of trades, I don't think that Trey or Zunyan, I don't think Zunyan would be as high up as he is. Trey, do you mind if
I share a quote with you?
Yeah.
This is from our from Trey Coach.
Yeah.
He says, and I quote, "We all know that I am involved in collusion." So I really think
there
that
it is
for itself.
It's
there it is.
Obvious.
On the coffin.
The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, I don't think it gets more obvious than that. I mean, he calls himself out.
Someone who lives with Zunyan and Trey do spend a lot of time together, talking in hushed voices. I do see them together. I've seen them before this simulation, and I often can't hear what they're talking about. So it always makes me wonder: are they working on a trade, or is it something a little more sinister?
Right.
Bryce, we do have an inside source in the house, don't we?
So I'm just taking this as my formal opportunity to say that I think Zunyan and Trey are working together to make sure that Zunyan lands in the top 5. But I don't think there's a chance that Zunyan wins this league. And I think Zunyan is overconfident about his abilities, and he thinks that he's going to absolutely bot me when we play in a couple days. So, do y'all have any other thoughts on that before we head to the very last little bit of the podcast?
I mean, you're right, 100%. That's all I can say.
I mean, it's just we just constructed a timeline. I mean, it's all there. Everything we have the receipts, bro. Like,
oh yeah. And specifically this 3-way trade, I think this is another way that it shows that they're working together, because we know there's no chance that them working with Quinn to give Quinn Kobe makes any sense. Why would this 3-way trade happen? They're working together to make sure that that Quinn gets screwed and they both benefit from it, and specifically that Zunyan benefits from it, and so they don't care if it comes at the demise of Quinn. And
so,
I specifically, real quick before I let you take this, my text with Trey regarding the Kobe thing was that me and Trey said Wall for Calderon. I said, I don't know if I can do that one. I can do Kobe for Calderon. He said, I'll take Kobe for Calderon. I said, I'm down. And then I said, about to make some power moves, my guy. You got this. He said, about to get magic for Kobe. All right. I think that was his way of trying to, like, hush. And then I think Zach posted this trade too quick. I think I think the original plan in Trey's mind was to do this behind the rug and not show it as a 3-way trade, and then Zunyan put it up there. But I think that this is proof that they're working together.
No, yeah. Do you mind if I make a very, very dark and morbid comparison?
Yeah.
If this goes too far, just feel free to cut it. So, you know how Quinn accepted that?
Quinn accepted what?
He accepted the trade, right? He accepted that he would receive Kobe, and he was cool with it. I think they also do not let mentally ill people agree to assisted suicide.
I mean, you're not wrong.
So I feel like that's an apt comparison. I'm not calling Quinn mentally ill, but I am saying he is committing simulation suicide by agreeing to get.
Yeah,
and we just can't allow it.
I feel like that's a fair assessment. It's saying that Quinn's at his absolute bottom, and to allow Quinn to continue to roll in the bottom is similar to that comparison of you not allowing somebody that's mentally ill to say yes to assisted suicide. I mean, I think that's very fair to say that.
Thank you. I don't want to go too far or anything.
What if they kidnapped Quinn? Has anybody talked to him?
Oh my gosh, let's not go there.
Anybody?
Let's not go there. All right, boys, let's go into the last little bit of this podcast. We're going to start off.
Bring up before the last segment.
I'm ready.
So we're talking about playoffs.
Correct.
Well, to my understanding, the playoff format will be the top 8 teams make the playoffs, and then from there it's just a normal tournament. You guys feel like this is too many teams? Because that's 73% of the teams making the playoffs, which is higher than any major sports league on earth. You guys think it should maybe be 6 teams only, maybe in the top 4 that make the playoffs, or do you guys think 8 teams is perfect?
I think 8 teams was fine given the original expectation to have 12 teams in the league. I think now that it went down to 11, I think it would have been fine to move down to 6. But I do understand your comparison of actual major sports leagues, but I think it does add a level of entertainment to have 8 teams in the playoffs. It's similar to like an NCAA playing game. I was going to say if there were... No, I don't know where I was going with that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, everybody loves the playoffs. Like, I imagine that if we only had, like, 6 teams in the playoffs, that's only 3 series in the first round. Like, I mean, it's just more teams. I feel like it would just be more entertaining. Because playoffs, anything can happen. I mean...
Well, I mean, it wouldn't even be 3. It would be one team would get the number 1 would get a bye. The number 1 and 2 would get a bye. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So
I think it's definitely a point of contention for a future simulation. So, any other points before we move on?
So are we going to have an outright league championship before the tournament? Is this college basketball rules in terms of championships, or are we playing straight NBA?
I mean, are we talking about the person with the best record being the champion, and then the tournament champion being the tournament champion?
Yes.
I think the tournament champion is what takes it. I mean, it's the NBA, and similar to like, I mean, you could have the number one team in the league in the NCAA be the regular season champion, but like nobody cares about that. Whoever wins March Madness wins March Madness. That's who gets the glory.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
So we're gonna go in the format of Lucas. Then we're gonna go Lucas and Bailey together, but we'll start with Lucas because y'all's matchup is against each other tomorrow. So we're gonna say, Lucas, I want your best team. I want your wild card, and then I want your prediction of the game. Then Bailey talking about that matchup prediction game. So Lucas, Bailey, Bryce, myself. All right.
All right. So not to be an egomaniac or a narcissist or anything, but for the best, I'm gonna have to go with myself.
Yeah.
I think due to the collusion I was involved, I think it really benefited my team, and like it helps when you cheat. You know, you can get a better team when you're. So when I cheated and I got a better team, I think that put me in a good position to be the favorite this league.
Right.
As for the wild card, I hate to say it, but I'm gonna have to go with Zenian just because his cheating knows no bounds. So who knows what he can do or what he has up his sleeve to try to get this win with Trey on his side. Like, who knows? So I'm gonna have to go with Zenian. And as far as my matchup tomorrow, I respect Bailey so much as a person. Not as much as an all-time participant. I'm gonna give myself the edge 6.
You say 6-2?
6-2.
All right. Bailey, tell me about your best team, your wild card, and then your prediction.
Best team, I'd have to say David. He's had several very, very good series in his favor. Granted, they were against some of the lower opponents in the table, but his success is there. My wild card, I'd have to say it's you, Thomas. You have steadily improved like throughout the whole season.
I appreciate
You
that.
started out, you lost your first series, but you have just improved your team every day, and you've just been going up in the charts. And then for tomorrow, me and Lucas, I'm gonna say 5-3 in Lucas's favor.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. I appreciate you. Let me be your wild card for the day. That means a lot, more than you know. What's funny?
I love how genuine that was. How much that meant to
you. All right, Bryce, tell me about your best team, your wild card, and then your prediction for your game tomorrow.
I'll have to agree with Bailey on this. I think David's still the team to beat in the league. I think he's probably going to pull out 6 games against Drew tomorrow and then sweep Trey, and the next day he's going to win 14 of his next 16. He looks unstoppable. He looks really good. My wild card, I'm going to go unconventional and go with Bailey. Bailey turned it around today, made some more trades today. And I know he's going up against a juggernaut against Lucas, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't win the series outright, but is able to split it 4-4. And that would be a win for Bailey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow I actually play 2 against Zunion. I think I'm going to demolish Zunion.
Mm-hmm.
How bad do you think you're going to demolish him?
I think it's going to be 6-2, 7-1. I don't think I'll sweep him. But especially if this trade goes through, in that case, Zunion only has 6 players and an extra Smush Parker. And it looks like David's going to allow the trade to happen. So that really kind of shifts the odds in my favor. Zunion was a good team until he got an extra Smush Parker and one less player. And then I play Ben, and Ben's a tough opponent. Ben's trending upward. I'm going to give myself the edge 5-3 in a really, really close series.
Awesome. I think
I like
that's
those
a really good
predictions.
analysis. Yeah. I'm definitely a big fan of that. And then I'll go ahead and take it last. I think my best team in the league. I am definitely very torn between Lucas and David because I think they're both really good teams. I mean, very good teams. I mean, the difference between their wins and losses is minimal. And so I want to say, or no, I guess David's taken it pretty steadily actually. Now I realized that I made one error on the report, and so I think David's 37 and 17, or not 37 and 17, 37 and 11. So he's got a hearty lead. I think I'll put David as the number one, just because I haven't seen him change in a while. I think Lucas, you're on the upturn. And we'll see what happens in the next few days. But I have to give the edge to David on this one, just based on pure win-loss ratios.
Definitely fair. I've got to earn it. I've got to earn
Yeah,
a couple more series.
And I think you can. My wild card, that's an interesting one. Honestly, I don't remember who I gave my wild card to yesterday, but I think Bryce is the wild card. I mean, I think people respect Bryce, but I don't think people realize how good Bryce is. Like, I think people, at the very beginning of the league, they talked about how good your draft was. And you proved how good your draft was, as you talked about earlier. You didn't do this through a bunch of trades like everybody else. You stuck true to your team. You took free agency, and you demolished it. You did great. And so I think that you have the knowledge that you need to take it far in here, so you're my wild card on the day. And last but not least, my matchup for tomorrow, I go and I play Miles. Based on trends, if we're taking a look at how Miles has progressed over the last couple of days, I mean, Miles has stayed pretty steady. Let's take a look at his win-losses over the past couple days. His box score finals. So Miles today lost 1-7 against David. I understand that. But I also went 3-5 against David. Miles went 4-4 against Zunion. I think I'm a better team than Zunion. He went 5-3 against Drew, and I went 6-2 against Drew. I think I take this 5-3 against Miles, and if I'm having a real good day, I think 6-2 is definitely reasonable. But I'm going to say that my actual projection is 5-3 with a hearty point differential. So, are there any final thoughts before we end this?
I'm just glad that we're out here providing accurate analysis while Trey and Zenon are imploding in the group.
Yeah, I mean, I just really want to thank Bryce. He was a great guest. Came in with the numbers, the facts. Man.
Yeah, so
job,
Bryce, any last thoughts for you? Because we do appreciate you being on here, and I feel like you've definitely been an incredibly solid guest. We've been glad to have you on throughout the duration of the entire podcast.
Thank you very much. I just want to say I think that your podcast is the best content this league puts out, specifically because of the thumbnails. The thumbnails are...
The thumbnails would not be possible if it's not for people like you providing great pictures with you wearing the cowboy hat. I think that's something else. I love Bailey, which I took that picture of Bailey up there at Vision Quest. Big fan. And then Lucas right here, bro. I'm literally just vibing, bro. Love it.
That's in a bad place.
Shout out to you all for some good content. So I appreciate any of you that are listening to this, the most accurate analysis in NBA simulation within our league. And so I appreciate you for listening, and then we'll catch you on the next episode.